Tell it, Paul.
So the earliest memory I have of my grandfather is from an Easter Sunday church service when I was 3, which is funny because it was probably the only time he showed up to church in his life. And I can't remember who convinced him to come, but I remember that the service was outside. And during the silence of the pastor's prayer, I remember this woman walked by. And with me, at 3, sitting on his knee, my half-deaf grandfather cried, "Oye, if I could get a run at that, I would ride that motherfucker till the wheels fall off." And at that moment, nobody's head was still bowed to pray. Shit, you could have heard a dime drop into the collection plate. It was as if Jesus himself had stopped the church service to ask, "Excuse me, but what the hell did you just say?" But that was my grandfather. The second oldest memory I have of him is from when I was 4. He taught me how to salsa step in sweat socks across our parquet floor. I remember he taught me quick, quick, slow. Quick, quick, slow. He was a dance instructor when he was younger. Gave my brother and me one of his trophies once. But after that, I don't have good memories of my grandfather. See, he was an abusive alcoholic, which led to diabetes. And when the blood could no longer make its way to his toes, they cut his legs off at the knees. It's a sad thing to see. A dancer with no feet. And by the time I turned 8 or 10, people rarely talked to him, like his friends. Didn't call him on birthdays or holidays. His children barely spoke his name. He didn't talk to his wives, past nor present. By the time I turned 16, 18, my grandfather lay dying in a hospital bed and he could barely lift a limb. And the only person who still spoke with him was my mother. She would drive my brother and I twice a year, 600 miles to spend 2 days at a time with him. And I remember the last time I ever saw my grandfather alive. He told me some men are big enough to understand how small their existence means. And then he said, but I'm not one of those men. He said, I got a lot of theories on living, but I've only learned one thing. And let me be the first to say that nobody's messed up their life more than me, but it doesn't matter how broken or battered or abused we become, because we are all worthy of something beautiful, something perfect, something pure. And it doesn't matter how far we've fallen or whether or not we are all brokenhearted. We all deserve to chase our own happiness until God calls us home, whether or not he called us cursing during some Easter Sunday service. See, the only things we regret in life are the chances we're not willing to take. So when it comes to your own happiness, you let there be no room for second place. And you run after what you want until one day when they take your legs. And then you use every impulse of your energy until you no longer have the strength to lift your head. And then every morning when you wake up, you breathe. And you try not to forget what life tastes like. You try to remember the dance and know that you can still get all those steps right. And if you find one moment of happiness in this short thing we call life, then you grab that moment and you hold that moment tight and you ride that mother fucker till the wheels fall off.